Welcome to the Kids Eating Broccoli podcast, where we believe that raising healthy kids shouldn't be complicated. Our mission is to inspire 20 million families worldwide to take the steps to raise the healthiest generation in our history. We'll interview some of the world's leading experts in nutrition, human potential, and children's health, as well as extraordinary chefs and foodies to gain insight into simple, fun, and creative ways to introduce natural health into homes across this planet. All right, so welcome to the next episode of the Kids Eating Broccoli podcast. And today, for our guest, we have Dr. Krista Burns, and she's going to share with us her expertise. Well, she's got expertise certainly in a lot of areas, but today we're going to really dive into this topic of digital dementia, which I know is a big one for a lot of parents because I see it on social media everywhere. You know, how much screen time do I give my kids? Is there a problem with having them use the cell phone, so on and so forth? So we're going to dive into all of that. But before we get going, first of all, thank you, Dr. Krista, for joining us today.
Thank you for the opportunity. I look forward to connecting with your audience, and I just really appreciate the message that you're putting out there with the podcast.
Well, thanks. So why don't we just let people get to know you a little bit? Tell us your background, where you started, kind of how you got to be doing what you're up to these days.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Krista Burns, and I'm the co-founder of the American Posture Institute. And how I originally got into posture goes all the way back to a skiing career when I was growing up. You know, I was an Olympic hopeful athlete. I was competing at a national level at national championships, skiing moguls. That was my first passion and my first love. And I wanted to become a skier. Now, I entered my spine, actually U.S. ski team selections when I was 17 years old. And at the time, the recommendation that I received was to go and get injections in my spine. Now, fast forward, after getting injections and following this allopathic route for, back pain that I was suffering for at the time, I ended up more debilitated at the end, and I had to stop skiing even though I was ranked high in the nation and had a very promising skiing career. So from that point, I became obsessed with helping people with back pain because to me, it was impossible to understand how a young athlete couldn't overcome back pain in a natural route. And that's where I found out about chiropractic, and I went to chiropractic school. And from there, I'm going to be honest with you, I still had a little bit of back pain. So from that point forward, I dove more into postural correction of how I can make simple shifts into my life that would then make these ultimate changes. And after developing postural correction systems, combined with manual therapy, that was when I personally finally overcame back pain and began to help thousands of patients in our practice. And from there, the American Posture Institute was born. And now how it's shifted towards digital dementia is once I became a posture expert, I started noticing tech neck posture everywhere. You guys know tech neck posture, where children, adolescents, and adults, where we're looking down at our cell phones in this posture. And it's impossible to ignore. It's everywhere. So after studying tech neck posture, realizing that not only is it impacting the function of the body, but also the function of the brain, resulting in dementia-like symptoms in adolescents. So that's how we've gotten to this point of, specializing in digital dementia and truly want to make an impact by helping educate more people about this viral epidemic.
So yeah, that's quite a journey. So one thing there, a lot of things, but certainly one thing that caught me there at the end is dementia symptoms in adolescents. Can you tell us a little bit more about what does that mean?
Yeah, what that means is dementia-like symptoms. So you have to understand that there's non-Alzheimer's dementia. So the first time you heard me say dementia, the picture that you probably had in your head was an older person, in their late 80s, 90s, and they can't remember their family or they can't remember their short-term memory loss. Now, there's also non-Alzheimer's dementia, which is dementia that can happen earlier in life. Now, what we're experiencing and seeing now with children is that when they spend too much time on their devices, combined with poor lifestyle habits, which is also an important factor, then we're actually seeing short-term memory loss. And as a result, we're seeing decreased actual shrinking of the brain in certain areas associated with memory. So dementia-like symptoms starting as early as with adolescents. And what scares me the most about this is the first generation that's being exposed to it, because this is the first generation that is growing up with technology from the time that they're born, where it's normal to always have technology as a part of their life.
And so what kind of symptoms do we see? Is it like memory loss? Like what does that look like in young people?
So what it looks like is acting out. So for example, if your child wants to use their devices and they're acting out behaviorally, if they can't have their devices, more like an addiction, it's also going to show in their school performance. They're going to demonstrate signs of lack of motivation and goal setting, where they just have that lethargy and they want to be, for example, seated on the couch with their devices versus doing more motivational activities. And it can, if you've ever seen, I call it like a tech trance or kind of a computer coma, where there's almost that zombie-like, glazed over look on the face associated with staring at the device and getting all that stimulation from a device instead of from the world around us, which is a more natural stimulation. And so that impact on the brain function can, again, result in short-term memory loss, lethargy, lack of motivation, acting out, ADHD-like symptoms for children and adolescents.
Wow. And how early are we starting to see this now? I mean, is it starting in young kids?
It is starting in young kids. And unfortunately, infants should not be exposed to devices, at least until the age of 2. I would say even longer, but following the recommendations. And what we're seeing is that children are now spending up to 7.5 hours per day on average on their devices. And so from the research, this even more than 2 hours per day can have an impact on brain function. So any child spending more than 2 hours per day on their devices can be impacted by this viral epidemic.
And does it matter what kind of device or what they're doing while they're on the devices?
Yeah, that's a great question. It definitely matters what we're doing on our devices. So for example, if you're consuming quality content with great posture and you're aware and you take breaks throughout the day while on your devices and doing schoolwork, for example, this is a good utilization of technology. And one of the things I should say is I'm definitely not anti-tech, but I'm pro-health. So engaging with technology with healthy boundaries and having quality content that we're getting from our screens. Versus the opposite end of the spectrum would be spending hours and hours per day, in slumped over posture, staring at a device and getting all this incoming visual stimulation with non-quality content to help develop the brain and impact learning.
And so what about things like, I have 3 kids and the youngest is 4. And the oldest is 12, so I've kind of been through this younger age through the tech time. And there's all kinds of videos and products and even video games and websites that are supposed to be educational, for even young little kids, teaching them how to read and stuff. What are your thoughts about those type of things?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I'm sure all the parents who are listening have had that same thought, because you make a proactive step to get educational, learning materials for your children. And now you're wondering if it was a good decision. And the answer is yes. So when engaging with technology, with good posture, with taking breaks throughout the day to get up and move around, so we're not just seated and bound to our desks, and utilizing these devices for educational purposes is a good thing. But let's also recognize the boundaries, because the National Institute of Health is showing us that if we use our devices more than 7 hours per day, it does impact the development of the brain. So my recommendation would be not to use it for 7 hours, but nice healthy bouts with breaks in between is going to be beneficial for children.
Gotcha. And then, you've mentioned in terms of making it healthier, having good posture and getting up and taking breaks. What do you, obviously, you're a posture expert, so that makes sense that would come up in the conversation. What does that look like? What when someone's looking at their phone, can you give us some idea of what good posture and what good break times would be?
Yeah, that's a great question. So anybody who's watching us live on video, or if you're listening to us on the podcast, you're likely on one of 2 devices. You're probably on a laptop or you're probably on your cell phone. And just check your posture right now. And let's see how your current posture is. 1, are you seated or are you standing? And number 2, are you hunched over in this flexion position, or are you upright into extension? So what that means is that when we go forward with our head, we drop forward into forward head posture and we round our shoulders. Now we're in what's called a flexion position. And we want to go into nice upright extension. So for everybody who's watching right now, a way that you can feel how this directly impacts the function of your body is with your breathing. So if you were to drop your head forward, roll your shoulders forward, and try and take a deep breath in, just try that at home. And now pull your head up and pull your shoulders back and sit up straight, engaging your core, and take a nice deep breath in and out. You feel much less restricted.
Yeah.
So imagine now if that's impacting your posture is directly impacting your respiration, your ability to breathe and fuel oxygen to your body. Now, if you're in poor posture for hours and hours and hours per day and it becomes a habit and your new normal, your respiration is completely debilitated. Now, that's just one example of how poor posture is impacting your health. Now, what's interesting about posture too is from an alertness perspective and productivity. So imagine thinking back to high school or junior high school, if you started to kind of nod off and fall asleep in school, what happens to your posture? You kind of go into this posture, don't you? You slump forward and slump to the side. Now, if you want to wake up, you instantly sit up straight. It helps you feel more alert because the same part of your brain that controls your posture also helps control your alertness. So when you have upright posture, it's healthier for the function of your body and it's better for paying attention for your brain. So what that looks like then is instead of looking down at your device, if you want to pull your device up to eye level, if you're on your computer monitor, you can set something underneath it so that you're looking directly at your screen. And if you're on your cell phone, you can just put your elbows close to your body and then hold your device here so that your arms don't get tired holding it up like this. So you can rest your arms on your body and bring your device up to eye level. So reversing that flexion position and going into nice upright extension. And you also mentioned how often should we take breaks. My best recommendation is to take a posture break for 30 seconds every hour. So to do a posture break, you want to reverse the pull of gravity on the body, which pulls you forward. So all you have to do is bring your arms out to the side, press your chest forward and drop your head back. Now, if you're on video, you can see us doing this. And if you're on the podcast listening to audio, all you have to do is drop your head back, press your chest forward and bring your arms out to the side. And you can see how it instantly helps bring your body into better posture. So doing that for 30 seconds every hour is a very manageable amount of time that helps instantly bring you into a better posture position.
Yeah, it seems like you could use one of those big exercise balls or something like that too to stretch out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And while seated too, sitting on an active surface, which is called active sitting, is such a great idea as well, or standing, just so that you're getting more movement and more fuel and activation to your brain while engaging with your technology.
Gotcha. So, I mean, clearly technology is everywhere. You know, we see younger and younger kids with cell phones and of course it's integrating into our society. You know, way more people are looking at computers all day for their work than they were, you know, a generation ago. But I mean, to have gotten to the point where it's like this sort of almost epidemic or maybe is level with our kids, how do you think we got here? I mean, what were the factors that, in your opinion, that got us to be at this level of, where we have to really make a difference, you know, and change things?
Yeah. And, you know, everywhere you look, everybody's on their cell phone. We all have a cell phone in our pockets. You know, our children probably all have cell phones. It's become so normal that it doesn't seem like it's possible it could be a problem. But if we take a step back and we look around us and we see the zombie culture around us staring down at our devices and not interacting in the real world, we do realize that it is a problem. And how did we get here? We got here because our screens and our devices are designed to keep us on them. They're designed to make us addicted. And, you know, again, no fault put towards technology. It's on us and our responsibility to be healthy while engaging with it. So for example, your device is constantly activating in different parts to activate different parts of your brain to keep you interested. And as you grab your device, so for example, if you have a notification on WhatsApp or a text message, or whether it's a Facebook notification, whatever it is, if you see that go off, your brain is instantly piqued to curiosity. You really want to know what that notification is. And as soon as you grab your device to get that notification, you get what's called a dopamine rush. And dopamine is one of those hormones in the brain that's responsible for a reward, for feeling like we've been rewarded or pleasure seeking. And so we feel good when we get that reward. We feel good being on our devices. And when we put the device down and we get another notification, then suddenly that curiosity is piqued again. We want to look at our device and we won't get that dopamine until we do. And so we have this digital addiction where we want to be constantly connected, but what that's creating is a disconnection in the world around us. So we've gotten to this point because they're designed to keep us on them, and they've done a great job with that. And you can see it as Exhibit A. If you just look around you, anytime you're in public, whether you're at the park or at a restaurant or at the airport, you see people on their devices engaging instead of engaging in conversation together.
Yeah, people seem to be missing a lot about what's going around them, staring down at their phones a lot. It's quite a
Yeah.
thing to look up and watch for sure. Yeah, so that's interesting. So do you think is that those rewards, those subtle constant rewards, does that seem to be part of those dementia symptoms also? Is there
Yeah,
some way those are related?
Yeah, it is. It's related because we want to stay on the devices. And then when we spend too much time, 7.5 hours plus per day on our devices, then there's other parts of your brain called the prefrontal cortex and your hippocampus, which, for everybody who's listening, all you need to remember about that is those are parts of your brain that control your memory and also control your behaviors. So when the front part of your brain is impacted, then it's harder for us to say no. So our front part of our brain makes us human, and it helps us make better human decisions. When that's inhibited, which it is on your devices, then it's easier to make the wrong decision. It's harder to inhibit bad decisions, which means we continue to get dopamine, we continue to stay on our devices, we continue, in other examples, to eat the wrong foods like sugar, even though we know we should be eating broccoli instead, right? So that same habit loop that we get from eating sugar instead of broccoli is like being on screens versus being outside exercising.
Gotcha. So that's kind of like where we have this experience of, well, ourselves certainly, but if you take the phone away from your child and they act like they're a drug addict, that you just took their drug away. I mean, Exactly. It sounds like literally that's what's happening. I mean, that's a descriptor that I use for, like you mentioned, sugar or other food additives, that they trigger our brain exactly like, other drugs. So yeah,
that's exactly it. And, the research has actually demonstrated that cell phones can be as addictive as drugs and even more addictive than sugar. And if you're anything like me, sugar is hard to say no to, right? And that's because it tastes so good and it creates that dopamine rush. I have to make a conscious decision to say no. And all of our viewers who are listening, I know you guys understand that. You make that conscious decision to say no for you and for the health of your family. The same is true for your cell phone. Although it can be very addictive, if you get smart about it and have digital detox doses throughout your day, which means that you have set aside times to create these boundaries where you don't engage with your technology as a family.
All right. Well, yeah. So that's a great segue to my next question. What are your top things? Like, what is your best advice to parents like me, who have 3 kids between the age of 4 and 12, or other parents with kids now who are born into this technology time? What do we do?
Yeah. So number one is to not get rid of technology. Now that sounds counterintuitive, because if you go to your children today and just grab their devices and throw them away, well, that's going to create, all kinds of different issues. What we want to do is recognize that technology is a great thing for our society, but it's our responsibility to have healthy boundaries within our families. So with that being said, number one is creating digital detox doses. So those are moments defined throughout your day that you don't use devices. A great example is when you wake up in the morning. First thing should not be to grab your phone and see what's going on social media. Instead, getting up and having a morning routine that sets you up for a successful and happy day, such as going and doing exercising, drinking some water and rehydrating your body, connecting with your family, doing those things first thing in the morning. Another great example is right before bed, because our devices emit what's called blue light, which is activating and keeps us awake at night. And then also, if you check an email from work, for example, right before going to bed, that's on your mind instead of falling asleep. And so you want to create the digital detox moment right before going to bed and right when waking up in the morning. And then, of course, dinner time. So the research has actually demonstrated that children who have family dinner time, that impacts their grades nearly as much as studying and being present in school does. Because those moments are, it's almost sacred, right? It's sacred family time to come together around a dinner table, eat healthy food, of course, and connect as a family instead of being disconnected with everybody on their devices. So those are examples of digital detox doses throughout the day. So that's number one. Number two is to have healthy posture while engaging with your technology. So we already mentioned that when you have good posture, you're more alert and your body functions better. Here's the thing, is it's hard to have great posture without being consciously aware of it. So how I want you to become consciously aware of it is to start creating a posture reminder. So a posture reminder could be as simple as a sticker that you place at your computer at work or on your cell phone. And it just reminds you to check your posture while engaging with your technology. or it can even be a reminder that goes off on your phone. So you can positively use technology to remind you to be healthy with technology, right? So when that alarm goes off, that's your reminder to check your posture and sit up straighter. Also is to take breaks with technology. So we did the posture break, which is really important for re-engaging your body so that you're more alert and have better posture. But in addition to that, getting up and walking around as much as you can. So if you have a standing desk, that's excellent. If you can sit on an exercise ball, that's also great for active sitting. And then if, for example, if you're on a meeting, you can walk and talk. So if you're, on your cell phone, it's better to just grab your headphones and walk and talk while doing a meeting versus just being completely sedentary using your devices. So those three things right there are a great start to creating healthier boundaries, to reduce the amount of technology used, have better posture while engaging with your devices, and of course, moving more often. There's absolutely no substitute for exercise. We're a very sedentary society, and which is a whole other conversation, but when we pull it into this conversation of digital dementia, we need to move more often throughout our day.
Yeah. I've heard someone say that a lot of the problem with technology is, or, I think they were talking about kids on video games, is as much what they are doing as what they're not doing, right? Because they're not outside playing, and so they're just losing out on that. And something, something you mentioned in there reminded me also when you were demonstrating having, the way to hold your phone with your elbows against your body, and just watching you do that. It honestly reminded me of, like as people's eyesight sometimes starts to go, they start holding things further away. And then you mentioned the blue light. Can we touch on that a little more? What are the effects on our eyesight? Because I'm sure there's some, and I've heard about the blue light stuff, and we do some things in our house, but I'd love to just hear you touch on that too.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great question. So blue light first of all, blue light in its natural state is very healthy for us. So if you look outside, where's your greatest source of blue light? The sky, right? And the sky is designed, and our day is designed around a circadian rhythm, which is natural, where we have sunlight during the day, and then at night we have darkness, which helps us become tired to fall asleep at night. So that is extremely natural, and it's a very beneficial thing that we have. Now, if we as human beings look at blue light artificially, we start to realize that it's everywhere around us. It's being emitted from our TV screens, from our computer monitors, from our device, from our cell phones, from our iPads, a lot of the lights that we have in our houses. Our ability as human beings to control that light means that now, instead of when the sun goes down, instead of naturally becoming more tired and preparing for sleep, we're in control of that blue light. So we're constantly blasting it, and with cell phones literally right next to our face. So we're overexposed to blue light. Now, the problem with this is that blue light is activating. It keeps you awake. It keeps you alert, which again, during the day is not a bad thing. But we're seeing complete disruption of a hormone called melatonin, which is associated with your natural circadian rhythm, which basically means it helps you fall asleep at night naturally. So more and more people are staying up on their devices there, and which kind of goes back to the addiction issue as well. Once you're on it, you don't want to get off and you kind of lose track of time. But in addition to that, it makes it harder to sleep each night. So more and more people are presenting with insomnia. They're, not sleeping all through the night. Or if they do wake up, the first thing they do is they grab their phone, which is again a blast of blue light, making it more difficult to fall back asleep. So this blue light is then impacting sleep capabilities and sleep quality, which then impacts for children, certainly, their ability to thrive within the classroom, to comprehend what the teacher's telling them, to stay awake and stay alert in the classroom. So a great way of blocking blue light then is, again, natural blue light is a great thing. We want natural blue light. Having healthy relationship with technology where right before going to bed, for sure an hour before going to bed, we should not be on our devices. And if we are on our devices, and especially if you're currently experiencing sleeping problems, wearing what's called blue blocker glasses, which have an orange tint to them, an amber tint to them, those are going to block blue light from impacting your eyesight, which is also going to help reduce, it's going to help reduce eye problems, eye strain, headaches, even neck pain, and, sleep problems as well. So wearing those glasses in the afternoon and evening is a great way to reduce blue light emission or exposure from impacting your health. Yeah, exactly. Perfect example. Yeah. That's it. And they even make them for children too. So for all of our parents listening, if you're impacted with sleep problems, if you're feeling eye strain, you guys know that feeling where, at the end of your workday, maybe it's like it's 4:30 in the afternoon, you're about to leave at 5, and you just feel like your body's collapsed, your eyes hurt, you kind of feel like tightness in your shoulders, your neck hurts, you have a bit of a headache, and you feel tired, that's a great indication that, one, you need to take a posture break, and number two, that in the afternoons, you should be using those blue blocker glasses to reduce the amount of blue light exposure to your body.
Yeah, I just take mine off for these interviews. I figure. I don't.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. So, and so you said they make them for kids too. And what I know, I've heard of some different things. Let's see, I'm on a Mac right now, and I know I think they added something called Night Shift to that. What's your thought about those, the software overlays like that?
Yeah, that's another great option as well, especially if, for example, you're traveling and you don't have your glasses with you, or in an opportunity where you can't wear glasses, then this is another way. There's certain apps on your devices, like a Twilight app, also night mode. Those are really good for blocking the amount of blue light. And it's a simple shift. Like right when you do it, it's gonna seem a little bit different because your screen looks opposite. So where it's normally white, it's gonna look black. But then as soon as you get used to it, it feels normal. And overall, it's much healthier for your body, better for your eyes, gonna reduce headaches, help you sleep better, reduce that shoulder and neck tension as well. You're squinting forward and have that eye strain. Right.
Yeah, no, that's why I wear those glasses. I mean, I just when I'm looking at the computer a lot, I end up doing it more than I want to sometimes, but for my eyes at least. But I had another thought. Well, yeah, I mean, sleep is such a big issue these days. It seems like more and more. You go into a whatever mainstream, Rite Aid or Walgreens, and it's like they have a whole row of stuff to help you fall asleep. I mean, right next to it's a whole row of stuff to help you wake up, which is a whole nother issue. But and we see that in our kids. A study came out a few years ago about it was basically questioning, how many of these ADHD diagnoses are really just kids who are not sleeping well at night, because the symptoms are the same, essentially, are very similar sleep problems with ADHD. And so, I mean, this simple things like that to help, like you were saying at the beginning, technology's become so much a normal part of our life, we don't even notice it almost, and to realize the impact these things can have.
Yeah, and an interesting study came out of Canada. I'll share it quickly. Yeah. And it showed that 95% of children, so 95%, were not meeting the recommended guidelines for exercise, sleep, and safe screen use, those three combined. I mean, that's almost all of our children. Yeah. So if we look around, we go, okay, that's alarming. I mean, that's a sign, that's an indication that we need to make a shift as a society. So just because it's so normal to have a laptop, an iPad, and an iPhone, maybe all out even at the same time while watching Netflix, right? Just because that's normal doesn't make it ideal. And if we recognize that the new normal is not meeting the guidelines, then you can give your child the unfair advantage by helping them stay healthy, help position them in the top 5% so that they're excelling in the classroom, so that they have better social connections with their friends and better relationships with your family, and help them excel in sports, in the classroom, with music, with their clubs, and help them be the role model first for them, and help them develop into the people that you want them to become.
Yeah. Wow. 95%. That is alarming. That's a good word for that, for sure. Yeah. What I was going to say is that, how we hooked up was with the Digital Dementia Summit that you were the host of, or are going to be the host of. I guess it hasn't launched yet. That's a couple of weeks out, and that our roles were reversed there. But I know that this is something you're passionate about. And then also you got to interview, I think you said, I can't remember how many people, 30 or more 60. Experts, 60 experts. Yeah. So I figured you'd be like this overflowing resource about all this stuff. Yeah. So can you just give us the quick pitch about that? Like why would that be something useful to check out for parents?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity, because, the Digital Dementia Summit, we put it together as an opportunity to connect with parents like you who are raising children in the digital age. Now, this is uncharted territory. We've never had these symptoms with children before. And so it's not your fault that you didn't know about this viral epidemic. It's not your fault that you didn't know that 95% of children are not meeting the healthy guidelines. But now, as we bring it to your attention, what I want to do is provide you with natural solutions so that you can help your family make healthier decisions around technology. I'm not about throwing away technology and getting rid of technology. Again, it's all about health, your health, that you role model to your family, and the health of your family overall. So I'd love it if you join us on Digital Dementia Summit. We've teamed up with 60 experts from around the globe talking about the importance of safe screen use, talking about better lifestyle habits and factors, talking about nutrition and diet, how that impacts your ability to make great decisions, and of course, how to reduce EMF exposure, which is radiation from devices. So if you put that all together, I promise you're going to walk away with information and solutions to help your families, help safeguard your children from digital dementia, and help your family help raise healthier kids in the digital age.
Yeah, that's so profoundly important, and something that, I mean, it's so great that you brought all these people together, because it's since it's so new. There's I don't know if superstition is quite the right word, but you hear stuff being thrown around all the time, like, don't let them do this, let them do that, and it's like nobody really has sort of crystallized it into like, okay, here is what we know now, here's the best practices going forward.
Yeah. And this is not like a fad diet that you guys have seen come in and go out. These are real symptoms that we're seeing through research that children are presenting with. So now as parents, you look at this information and say, okay, I have two choices. I can ignore it and just keep doing what's normal, or I can say, okay, I recognize that this can be an issue and I want to prevent that for my child and help them thrive in the digital age. And we want to provide you with this information to help raise healthy, thriving children in the digital age. Awesome.
Well, so if you're listening to this podcast, you can go to the show notes on kidseatingbroccoli.com, and we'll have a link there to register for it's free. The summit is free, and to attend while it's going. And then if you're watching the video, look below, either on YouTube or Facebook, and we'll get you a link down there. So it's really easy. If it's something you want to do, you can follow the link and get registered.
Great. And let us know when you show up to the live video or the live summit. I would love to say hello to you personally and just thank you for your time. And I can tell you and promise you that you're making a good decision on behalf of your family by joining us on the Digital Dementia Summit.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for taking some time with us today, Dr. Krista. I appreciate it. Lots of really good info and really good actionable tips that people can put into place. And it's so great to be able to take this topic, a topic like this, where there's so many unknowns, and be able to narrow it down and say, here's what we can do and what we do know. So thank you very much for doing that with us.
Of course. Thank you, Dr. Brad, and thank you to all our viewers and listeners.
All right. You take care. Hey, thanks so much for joining us for this episode of The Kids Eating Broccoli. This is a very special episode because it covers a topic that's super important and one we don't talk about a lot on The Kids Eating Broccoli, and that has to do with using digital devices, digital dementia, posture, all that kind of good stuff. That's what inspired me to accept the invitation to be part of the Digital Dementia Summit, which launches in the middle of May 2019. To get a link to register for free to watch the entire summit, which is, like you heard her mention, 60 experts, including myself, go to the Kids Eating Broccoli website, which is kidseatingbroccoli.com, and look at the show notes. There'll be a link there, or if you're catching this on Facebook or anywhere like that, I'll try to put links in all those places. All right, thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.